Hey guys, my name is Vanessa Martinez and I'm going to be coming to you with some books that I've read to talk to you a little bit about them. Just a little heads up, I am an English teacher and I'm going to be talking about books that are mostly recommended for AP and pre-AP students. So a good mix of perhaps some classics, some modern contemporary pieces with some complexities, and some YA, just some choice for students. So my book talks aren't gonna have any spoilers. I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about the book so that you can see if it's something that you're interested in reading. So today I'm gonna tell you about this latest book I read called Where the Crawdads Sing. And this book is written by Delia Owens. It is her very first fiction novel. She's no stranger to writing, but this is her first work of fiction. And what's really cool about that is that being her first, she's been on the New York Times bestseller list for weeks. And from what I understand, it's gonna be made into a motion picture. So that's pretty cool. It's been getting a lot of buzz. So as far as this novel goes, takes place in the Carolinas in a very marshy, swampy wetland where a lot of these swamps lead out into the sea. And it takes place in the 60s and the 70s, so there's not a lot of development, so you're gonna get a lot of nature descriptors. The author, Miss Owens, has a background in zoology, like I told you, and so you will see so many of these rich, beautiful descriptions of nature, the animals, the processes of the animals. All of that is very present in her writing, and you can tell that she has an immense wealth of knowledge about all of these things. So our main character, I love her. I wanted more of her story. Her name is Kaya, and she lives in the marsh, and one by one, her whole entire family just ends up leaving her, and she finds herself alone at a very young age. And she's expected to survive and endure all kinds of hardships. So this is predominantly a coming of age tale that is very heavy with elements of romance. However, I'm going to read you the tagline. The tagline here says that it is painfully beautiful, at once a murder mystery, a coming of age narrative, and a celebration of nature. And that's from the New York Times Book Review. So when I read that, I said, oh yes, my favorite, murder. I love true crime. However, I'll tell you now, it's much more of a love story than it is a story about the murder mystery. That's more of a subplot. So to kind of talk about the plot, I'm gonna give you a brief summary. And as I do, I wanna tell you a little bit about the structure because it's one of the really unique, cool things about this book is that the prologue starts off where they find a dead body. So you know they are going to have to figure out how that happened and who done it. But then it takes us back to the early 60s and we're introduced to our main character, Kaya. And so the way the story goes is that there's basically two plots. And at first they talk about Kaya and her growing up, and you see everything that she endures and all of the experience that she has. And every once in a while, it's going to flash forward and it's going to talk about what's going on present day during the murder mystery and the trial and the investigation. So the plots are going to be moving slowly and slowly together until eventually they converge, and then we get to our resolution at the end. So some unique elements about this novel. One of them that I found particularly enjoyable is the language. The language itself is very beautiful. It's very poetic. In fact, there are some poems that are interspersed throughout the novel that have to do with the plot. They become very important. And it's just something that I really enjoyed about the novel, that the language is so rich and descriptive and beautiful. So another thing that's not necessarily unique, but I feel is worth mentioning is the pacing in this novel. This novel goes really slow, but I don't mean that as a criticism. I think it goes slow in the best way. It is a character-driven novel, and so you go through all of the experiences and you grow up right alongside Kaya, and you want it to go slow. I love Kaya. You will fall in love with Kaya. I definitely did not want her story to end. However, I do have one critique, which is at the end of the novel, I felt like the pacing picked up drastically. Once we hit the resolution, the final chapter felt more like an epilogue where they went through a matter of several years and a couple of pages, just kind of listing off, she did this, she did this, she did this. And because you're so invested in the character, although I was satisfied with the ending, I wanted them to take their time a little bit more. So I rated this book a 5 out of 5 stars because this is the type of book that I really do enjoy. I myself am a big Nicholas Sparks fan, and for anyone who doesn't know who that is, he wrote The Notebook, A Walk to Remember, The Last Song. Those are some of his more famous works because they were also made into very popular movies. And in my opinion, I felt like this is the same sort of style of writing. It is a coming of age romance novel with a little bit of a dark twist to it, except for me, Delia Owens' writing craft was much better than Nick Sparks. So there's that. Finally, I need to give you just a little bit of a warning because this is for students. Since this is a coming of age novel and you are growing up with Kaya and it is a romance, there are a couple of intimate scenes. It's not very graphic. It's definitely not very long or drawn out, but I feel like I do need to warn you that there is a little bit of mature content in there. So just a heads up when reading this novel. So that's all I have about Where the Crawdads Sing. I really hope that Delia Owens comes out with some more work and that it's just as great as this one. And I also can't wait to see the movie, even though, you know, books are always better. So I'll come back at you again with the next book that I read, and we'll see you soon. Bye.